The radical left makes its move as Democrats try to pack the Supreme Court. The NCAA threatens states that fight to preserve women's sports. Plus, Project Veritas founder James O'Keefe gets banned from Twitter. All that and more. I'm Bobby Eberle. This is a 13-minute news hour.
And God bless the United States of America.
All right, friends, welcome to the show. Happy Friday. I hope you had a great week. If you're new to the show, thank you so much for tuning in. We're going to start with the big story about packing the court, because just as we knew this was coming. Give the left, the radical left and the Democrats power, and they want two things. They want to take away our rights, and they want to keep that power. Give themselves more power, actually. And that's what this whole court packing is all about. It's to ensure Democrat control, whether they control Congress or not, whether Democrats control the presidency or not, because they know if they control the courts, especially the U.S. Supreme Court, they don't need Congress. They can rewrite the law. They can mangle the Constitution to mean whatever they want it to mean. They can push their agenda. They can stop laws that promote conservative values. That's what's going on here. It was alluded to in the campaign. They talked about in the campaign. Biden kind of pushed it to the side, but now it's front and center. Senator Ed Markey announced the move at the Capitol. Here's what he said.
We undo the damage that the Republicans have done by restoring balance. And we do it by adding 4 seats to the court to create a 13-member Supreme Court.
So we have 9 justices right now, and the media love to portray it as the 6-3 conservative majority. We all know it's really 5-4 the way Roberts has turned out, which is a story for another day. But now Ed Markey is announcing that the Democrats are going to change that. So what kind of wrong does he think that they are righting here? What's his agenda? Here's Markey.
These 4 new seats to be filled by President Biden will reconstitute the United States Supreme Court. The bench will then rightly reflect the values of the majority of the American people on whose behalf they serve. Expanding the court is constitutional. Congress has done it before, and Congress must do it again.
Unbelievable. This proposal is for 4 new justices to be filled by Joe Biden immediately. This is one of the things I warned people about as we were going through the campaign. You know, all those folks that said, I think I might vote for Joe Biden because I don't like President Trump's tweets. This is what you get. Higher taxes, a crisis, a fiasco at the border, massive, massive spending, and things like this. Packing the Supreme Court so that liberal legislation can just ram through and govern the United States of America. Congratulations. This is what you get when you put Democrats in power. Here is GOP House Leader Kevin McCarthy with his reaction on packing the court.
This should scare every single American, regardless of where you stand politically. The Democrats inside Congress today rather dismantle this nation than dignify the Constitution. This just goes to show how far the Democrat Party has moved. There almost are no longer common sense or moderate Democrats elected.
So McCarthy is right. This should scare every American out there. And here's just a little bit of background. When Markey says that it is constitutional to change this, he's right. But it doesn't mean the policy is right. We need an amendment to the Constitution. Keep it at 9 once and for all. Spell it out and take it out of the hands of Congress, because the Democrats go radical when they get in power. Here's a little background on the history of the court. The U.S. Constitution established the Supreme Court, but left it to Congress to decide how many justices should make up the court. The Judiciary Act of 1789 set the number at 6, a Chief Justice and 5 Associate Justices. In 1807, Congress increased the number of justices to 7. In 1837, the number was bumped up to 9, and in 1863, it rose to 10. In 1866, Congress passed the Judicial Circuits Act, which shrank the number of justices back down to 7 and prevented President Andrew Johnson from appointing anyone new to the court. 3 years later, in 1869, Congress raised the number of justices to 9, where it has stood ever since. In 1937, in an effort to create a court more friendly to his New Deal programs, President Franklin Roosevelt attempted to convince Congress to pass legislation that would allow a new justice to be added to the court for a total of up to 15 members for every justice over 70 who opted not to retire. Congress didn't go for FDR's plan. So that's the story. And as it stands right now, Nancy Pelosi says she's not planning to bring up legislation. That's because the balance of the House is probably so close, she doesn't want to take a loss on this radical proposal. And Joe Biden has his court-packing commission that he's going to study. He's going to wait for their analysis and their results. Give me a break. All right, so next, let's talk about what's going on at the NCAA. But first, if you're new to the show or haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. And when you do, please hit that bell so you'll be notified. We're making our push for 150,000 subscribers, and we could do it with your help. All right, let's talk about the NCAA because they are proving to be no different than any of these other big left-wing woke corporations that we're seeing now. The ones that are getting politically active rather than just focusing on a good or a service, a product. The NCAA is all about college sports. But what are they doing? They're jumping into the transgender movement and actually threatening states that seek to protect and preserve women's sports. In the latest effort to appease the progressive woke, the NCAA hinted it may strip championship games from states that prevent biological males from competing in women's sports. In a statement, the league urged it supports the opportunity for transgender student athletes to compete in college sports. The NCAA has a long-standing policy that provides a more inclusive path for transgender participation in college sports, the statement reads. Our approach, which requires testosterone suppression treatment for transgender women to compete in women's sports, embraces the evolving science on this issue and is anchored in participation policies of both the International Olympic Committee and the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee. The NCAA embraces evolving science. Evolving science? Give me a break. We all know there is no evolving science. A man is a man and a woman is a woman. It's pretty clear cut. Have you seen some of these so-called transgender athletes competing in women's sports? Even with testosterone blockers, they've already developed their skeletal structure, their lung capacity, their muscles. I mean, if you want to have these people compete, have a different division just for them. Or better yet, have some common sense and say, look, you can dress the way you want, you can act the way you want, you can think you're a woman if you want, but on the athletic field, dude, you're a dude. Compete against other men. Women's sports is for women. And here's more. The statement concludes that only locations where hosts can commit to providing an environment that is safe, healthy, and free of discrimination should be selected for championship events. The league said it will continue to closely monitor these situations to determine whether NCAA championships can be conducted in ways that are welcoming and respectful of all participants. This is just pathetic, folks. Sports is supposed to be about fair play, even competition. Men against men, women against women. Who's the better athlete? Let's see, let's compete, let's find out. That's what it's all about. But the left, they don't care about fairness. They don't care about actual equality. They want to destroy the fabric of normalcy because when they do, that promotes chaos and that gives them more power, more control to advance this far radical left-wing agenda. And again, they're supposed to be about protecting women's rights, right? Nope, not when it comes to a man competing in women's sports. Then it's all about the men beating the women. That's what the left wants. All right, so next, let's talk about what's going on over at Twitter because they just banned James O'Keefe, the founder of Project Veritas. Now, you know Project Veritas is in the news. On the last show, on one of our segments, we talked about their latest undercover video, their undercover sting at CNN, where they talked to a CNN technical director who flat out admitted that CNN is a propaganda machine designed to bring down President Trump and prop up Joe Biden.
Yeah, I mean, like Trump, we did it. Like when Trump was, I don't know, like his hand was shaking or whatever like that. We brought in like so many medical people to like all tell a story that like it was all speculation. That he was like neurological damage, like that he was losing it. He's unfit to, you know, whatever. We were creating a story there. didn't know anything about. So that's I think that's propaganda.
So now as that bombshell video is exploding across the internet, Twitter made its move, and it showed once again that there is one standard for the radical left and a completely different standard for conservatives. James O'Keefe, the founder of the investigative journalism organization Project Veritas, has been permanently blacklisted by Twitter, just as his organization releases bombshell undercover footage showing senior CNN employees admitting to using propaganda. At Project Veritas, the organization's official account has also been suspended. In a comment to Breitbart News, a Twitter spokeswoman said the suspension was permanent. This comes directly after O'Keefe and Project Veritas publicly embarrassed the far-left news network, CNN. Now, of course, this banning has been met with serious blowback from conservatives across the country. Conservative director and producer Robbie Starbuck, he tweeted this: "Breaking. James O'Keefe of Project Veritas has been suspended by Twitter. This is pure censorship for political reasons because he has successfully exposed CNN, the media, and the Democrats. This is insanity. If you care about journalism, let Jack know how you feel." It is pure censorship, and now it's tag team censorship. You take on CNN, and all of a sudden Twitter comes and says, "I have your back. I'm going to block that guy." What is this? And here's Donald Trump Jr. At this point, both CNN and Twitter should have to register with the FEC as Democrat super PACs. So what are Twitter's reasons? They say that O'Keefe is permanently suspended because he violated Twitter's rules on platform manipulation and spam. Here's more. As outlined in our policy on platform manipulation and spam, you can't mislead others on Twitter by operating fake accounts, and you can't artificially amplify or disrupt conversations through the use of multiple accounts. Twitter did not clarify what does or does not count as improper use of multiple accounts. CNN, for example, operates CNN, CNN Business, CNN Newsroom, and CNN Politics accounts, among others. All are verified. There's no valid reason for this. As soon as conservatives start making noise, start getting a following, start influencing people, big tech steps in to shut it down. All right, so now we have Twitter banning. We've got the transgender athletes. We got Democrats court packing. We need to ask them, do you have a relaxed brain?
I got what you call, a relaxed brain.
All right, let's start with Dr. Fauci, because this guy is all over the place. Mixed messages on masks, on vaccine, on getting together. And it is so obvious that they don't know what they're talking about. They are pushing a fear agenda and not following the science. So this got Tucker Carlson's interest, and he asked basic questions about what's going on. If you're taking this vaccine, why do you have to live and act like you didn't take the vaccine? Why do you have to still wear a mask? Why can't you go out? Does the vaccine work or not? He hammered Fauci. So Fauci went on CNN, the friendly network for fear, and blasted Tucker Carlson. And here's part of the clip.
That's just a typical crazy conspiracy theory. Why would we not tell people if it doesn't work? Look at the data. The data are overwhelming. In the 3 vaccines that have been approved for use in an emergency use authorization, the J&J, the Pfizer, and the Moderna, you had 30,000, 44,000, and 40,000 people in a clinical trial with an overwhelming signal of efficacy. So I don't have any idea what he's talking about.
How dangerous is it for a TV personality like that, who does have an audience of millions, to speculate about something like that?
So there's so much to unpack in that video, but really quick, at the end, the host says the speculation is dangerous. Again, that's their whole thing, that conservative talk is hate speech. It's dangerous. It's promoting fear. It's bad. We need to ban it. That's what he said in that simple statement. And then Fauci never addressed what Tucker Carlson was saying. It's not about the data. It's about having a vaccine and then acting like it doesn't work. So Tucker Carlson got on and fired back at Fauci.
You see the president of the United States wearing a mask outside. You see his vice president doing the same thing. You see the guy in charge of coronavirus response, the one you just saw, telling us that, again, after you've had the vaccine, you must remain under the restrictions. So we're asking a question that is rooted in science, which is why. If this stuff works, Why can't you live like it works? What are you really telling us here?
So how about some common sense there? And it just shows again how ridiculous Fauci is. Either the vaccine works or it doesn't. If it does, we should get back to normal. No masks, no lockdowns, nothing. If it doesn't, why are you pushing people to get it? So next, let's talk about the blow-up between Dan Bongino and Geraldo Rivera, because they were talking about this case in Brooklyn Center, Minnesota, where the person was shot and Geraldo immediately went to the race card. Immediately run to the race card. There is no evidence at all that race was involved. Nothing at all. Yet that's what he's pushing. Well, Dan Bongino wasn't having any of it. They're going back and forth, saying, look, this is not about race. Well, it reached the boiling point until finally Geraldo had the freak out.
You tell that to the black families that see their sons being killed.
That's all you
twice
got.
the rate
you
of
got
white
nothing else,
sons.
buddy.
That's
got
a
nothing
fact.
else.
That's a fact.
You've got nothing else. All you want to do is see the country burn. You just want to see the country burn. That's it.
I want to see the country burn. You son of a... I want to see the country burn, you punk. You're nothing but a punk.
Yeah.
You're a punk, Bongino. You're a punk.
You wouldn't tell me that to my face.
Jeez, what a mess. Bongino thankfully brought up a very, very detailed, in-depth study over from the Justice Department that shows there's no systemic racism in policing, in law enforcement. Geraldo wasn't hearing any of it. To him, it's all about race. Folks, that's our show for today. I hope you enjoyed it. Please tune in tomorrow, 11 a.m. Central Time, for our Saturday live stream. Until then, please subscribe, and when you do, please hit that bell so you'll be notified, and we'll see you next time. I'm Bobby Eberle. This is a 13-minute news hour. Okay, friends, thanks so much for watching. And before you go, please hit that subscribe button, hit that bell so you'll be notified. And here's a special video just for you so you can watch even more of the 13-minute news hour. And don't forget to check out GOPUSA.com for the best in conservative news and commentary. We'll see you next time.